It's time for the big show with Andy Gallo and Country Jim.
Hello, everybody. I'm Andy Gallo.
And I'm Country Jim.
And we just want to welcome our guest, Howlin Howie. How you doing, sir?
You're doing well. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Is that really your name?
Yes, it is my nickname, and just like yours is Country Jim,
Yeah.
Rural James.
So,
Exactly.
Rural James, I love that one. Where did you get the Howlin at? Where'd that come from?
When I was in high school at New Caney ISD, one of the choir mothers, I guess in an attempt to pick on me, possibly a little mean-spirited, I don't know, she gave me the name Howlin Howie, and I think she wrote it on the back of either in my yearbook or something like that. Well, years later, I forgot about it. Years later, I found it. And I guess maybe about 8 or 9 years ago, I just decided I was going to make myself a website for my gigs and such, and I decided to just adopt that name, Howlin Howie. Hey, it's kind of silly. It's I guess kind of original. And so I figured I'd just use that because I got a weird last name.
Cool.
And it's hard to say, it's hard to spell, So I figured Howlin Howie's kind of easy to remember.
So what is your last name?
Douthey. D as in David, O-U. T as in Thomas, H-E-Y. Douthey. It's originally, I believe, before the people came across at Ellis Island from Ireland.
Right.
It was D-O-U-T-H-I-T. But somewhere in Ellis Island, the name got messed up, and that's a common story.
Cool.
But that's it. I just figured I've got a lot of musicians. I've got a nickname of Howie D. They call me Howie D, and I've got a lot of other nicknames that I can't say in mixed company. But
I actually like Howie D a lot.
That's
my favorite one.
That sounds like a good radio name.
And
Howie D.
I used to introduce him as Howard Dowdy, and Dowdy rhymes with Mouthy.
Yeah. And I gave him that joke, yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Rhymes with,
So where were you raised at?
Porter, Texas.
Porter, Texas.
Yeah, sure was. Cool. It's a little bitty town. I'm not all that famous, but Sundance Head and Roy Head are. Okay. And we lost Roy, but Sundance Head lives up the road in New Caney now, right across the highway from me.
Right.
But yeah, we both grew up in Porter. Yeah.
Anybody in the family play music? How did that start?
Yeah, my aunt played at a hotel called the Houstonian, played piano for a long time there.
Oh, yeah.
And she sang, and she played piano till she got too sick to play. And I guess a couple of weeks before she passed, maybe a month before she passed, she was still playing the piano.
Wow.
And but I've got closet musicians all over my family. Not a lot of them have pursued it like me. But yeah, both of my parents sing. They match pitch. They could sing along with the radio, and they sing well. But nobody's ever chased it to make $1 off it like me. In the family. I do have a cousin, Eddie Bird. He does play music regularly, and he's got a band called the Cow Patty Daddies. Yeah, and so he does play music. My cousin David, his little brother, plays bass, and I do have some musicians in my family, but. I don't think there's anybody else in my family that's done it as a career as much as I have. Yeah.
You play what? How many instruments do you play?
I can play Mary Had a Little Lamb on every instrument. Yeah. I probably play primarily, I'm a bass player by trade.
Okay.
But my first instrument was trombone in the 6th grade band. But quickly after I learned the basics of the trombone, I started playing the rest of the brass, and I couldn't leave instruments alone because I was intrigued. So I started playing woodwinds and kind of went from there. And I know some keyboard too. So I'm just kind of a music nerd. I just really love anything musical.
Kind of a one-man band.
I could be, and I have done some work in the studio as a one-man band playing everything but the drums. Yes, sir. I have done that.
He can really, I think he's an excellent lead guitar player. He's not as big on his playing as I am, maybe.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I mean that. And in my bluegrass band, he's played upright bass quite a bit. And one time we were playing somewhere, and we were doing a bluegrass version of When the Saints Go Marching In. And he had sneaked a trumpet. He had sneaked a trumpet in, and he had it at the back of the stage. And right in the middle of When the Saints Go Marching In a bluegrass band with banjo and mandolin, he reaches back and grabs the trumpet and starts playing When the Saints Go Marching In.
That's good.
That's good. And seriously, when you're playing as a professional, it's a tool. And though I can do many jobs, like you said, I can play the guitar, but we excel where we spend our time. Mm-hmm. And so I've spent the most hours playing the bass. So yeah, that's my favorite thing to do. Matter of fact, even on my Facebook Howlin Howie page, my little profile picture is this thing I made in Photoshop that has a bass clef, right. And it says, I'd rather be playing bass. You know, a lot of these guys have these signs that say, I'd rather be fishing.
Right.
Mine says, I'd rather be playing bass. So I tell people that. He's called me many times for gigs. Jim has.
Right.
And said, well, on this gig right here, we got so-and-so on the drums. Would you rather play guitar or bass? I said, you know my tagline. I'd rather be playing bass.
Right.
I'm more comfortable there.
And that's upright or electric?
Yeah. I'm not as strong on the upright, but, for old school country and blues and a little bit of jazz, I'm decent at it enough to kind of pull it off.
Okay.
But, I haven't spent as many hours playing the upright, but I do have a decent upright. It sounds good. And,
to prepare myself because I had never met you before, I went to your website, and you're busy.
Thankfully,
you're a busy guy, man. I'm going to tell you what. I was looking at the dates, and I'm going, wow.
I've got a lot, yeah. Thankfully, I've been blessed with a lot of gigs.
That's a good thing to have, though.
It is because it's part of my income.
Oh, yeah.
And thankfully, I got a lot of different musicians that call me for different kinds of gigs. I've got a solo gig every Friday night at a restaurant out in Simonton, Texas called Anthony's Market Grill.
Okay.
And
just you and the guitar?
Just me and the guitar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And we had a great time last night. We did it again, and it was fun. And a couple of my friends came out and heckled me, and that was very it's a lot of fun when your peers are sitting 20 feet in front of you and trying to clap out of time and sing harmony out of tune with you, and it was great. So Ken and Patrick, if you're listening, thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. And then every Wednesday I play at that same restaurant. I play bass for Moses Wrangle, and that's a lot of fun. I got a lot of gigs. I do private parties and.
A couple of things I wanted to get you to talk to the people about.
Yes, sir.
I want you to talk about being a sideman as opposed to being the front man. But before that, I know you spent some time in Nashville. I know you spent some time in Austin. Did talk about that journey? I don't even remember which came first. Or were you playing with a local band before you left to go live and play somewhere else?
The chicken came first, not the egg.
Yeah. Who'd you play with around here?
Around here, my first official band that I was ever in was called Jeff Hord, Hord, and the Texas Full House Band. And he was a guy that I met while singing at an Opry in Conroe in about 1990. There was a short-lived Opry over there called the Texas Country Hoedown. And
was that at the Crichton?
No, it was actually at the old Twin Cinema in Conroe. That's where it started.
Yeah.
And then they moved over to West Davis or East Davis, over where Angelic Resale is now.
Yeah.
Where they used to be a little restaurant called Porky's right next door to where the Opry was.
Yep. Okay.
And I met this guy Jeff, and he saw me up there. He says, "Hey man, I'm gonna start a band. You want to play?" I said, "I guess." And I couldn't play a lick of nothing hardly. But anyway, he had me playing lead guitar for him for about a month, and then he fired me because I wouldn't practice. And then he called me back about a month later, a couple months. He says, "Hey, man, I need you to, we got this big gig coming up, big gig." I said, "Really?" He said, "I need you." I said, "What do you need me to do?" "You play bass, don't you?" I said, "Well, yeah, I can play some bass." And he says, "Well, man, here's the deal. I'd love you to come join my band and play bass. I miss your harmony singing. If you don't want to join my band and play bass, will you at least just play acoustic guitar and sing harmony with me on this show?" I said, "Man, I'll tell you what, I'll play bass." So I bummed a bass. Didn't even have one. And I bummed a bass rig. And I went and played that show. And when we got there, I had no idea. This guy, we're like, who is this guy? Easy Money Band. I think it was Easy Money. And the front man of the band was Toby Keith. It was at this club that's now gone. It's called Bullwinkle's in Nacogdoches. And I must have made a good showing because Jeff's like, "Dude, you killed it, this and that. Man, would you please stay on and play bass with me?" I said, "Yeah, man, I'll do it." So that the rest is history.
What would be your if you had to think about it? What's the one country artist or any artist that you admire, or maybe that you like to listen to?
Well, I've always said that if I had heroes, I'm not one that really adopts heroes, but if I had heroes, there are two that come to mind are Ronnie Millsap. He is absolutely one of my favorite singers of all time. And then in the songwriting department, I'll have to say Willie Nelson. There's a depth to his songwriting that's just, if you listen to some of the stuff that's not famous that he's done,
Oh yeah,
some of the songs are pretty deep.
Yeah, I've got some stuff that he back in the RCA days.
Oh yeah,
and I love listening to that stuff. To me, that's better than the Columbia stuff or anything else that he did.
Yeah,
I like that old RCA stuff though.
Yeah, it's good material.
Now,
when I would have him on my gig, there's a couple of things I would have him do because
this is what I was going to ask you because you told me a while ago that he does a great Willie Nelson
impersonation.
Oh, I didn't know what y'all were talking about. I was getting scared for a minute.
And Freddie Fender also. And
okay.
you can just I used to say that when I would introduce him that for the Magnolia Opera he was the entertainer of the year for 17 years or something like that. I just make up some silly sort of thing.
It was only twice.
But he did do a great job not only of playing and singing, but as an entertainer, he is just consummate. And with the Willie imitation that he does, you can close your eyes, and he just.
Well, thank you.
You got to hear that. And Freddie Fender, it is excellent, but it is hilarious also.
Well, a lot of entertainers do imitations. That's
yeah,
part
but you
of
do
it.
it well.
I do some comedy shows, and I've got this Willie Nelson character that I do, and Arvis Parsley.
I saw that on your website and think, who in the heck is that?
Willie Nelson, Arvis Parsley. It's just stuff I've come in. I'm one of these people. I'm serious about the music, but I'm never too serious. To me, it's got to be fun. That's one of my mentors, my musical mentors, actually. When I met, his name was Dale Linnemund, and he was one of my rhythm guitar teachers. And he lived right across the highway. As a matter of fact, the house that he lived in, we used to jam in all the time back in the 80s when I was in high school. Leslie, his daughter, lived in that house.
Wow.
Just 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
And it was so weird. I actually took my iPhone around in that house and took a video of that house.
Right.
And I was saying like, hey, this is where we used to jam. This is where the dining room where the table was that I charted out for the first time. Love Potion number 9.
Right.
Charted it. I was charting songs like that when I was a kid in high school.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool. But he told me a quote that I've never forgotten. Dale Linnemund told me, if it's not fun, I'm not going to do it anymore. He used to play on this show called The Big D Jamboree up in Dallas, evidently with a big opera show they had up there. Don't know how long it lasted, if it's still going on. I haven't even checked. Yeah. But he was evidently a regular on there for some time, and he told me, he says, I'm going to come up here in Magnolia, and I'm going to sing up there because I encouraged him to. He goes, but I'm just going to tell you right now, if I get up there and it's not any fun, I'm not going to do it anymore. And he always said that. And so I've kept that in mind all these years. If there's a gig I'm playing that's just not fun,
right,
even if I'm making 100% more than I was on my gig last night, probably not interested in doing that gig anymore. It's got to be, you got to enjoy what you're doing. Yeah. There's nothing like, hardly there's anything sadder than seeing somebody drudging through an office job for 20 years that they hate,
Oh, yeah.
And thankfully I'm able to do what I love. Even though it is work, I really enjoy it.
Well, that's good.
Before we run out of time, I mentioned it a moment ago. The last couple of years, you've been the front man for your own band instead of being a side man. And you're you're a consummate side man. You help me with singing, sometimes singing the solo and always singing the tenor harmony, and playing, like you say, playing either bass or lead guitar. And he's a great sound man. I'm an old guy now, and he'd bring the sound system and turn all the knobs. It's just really been a blessing. I'm so glad to have him on today. But say a little bit about the front man as opposed to side man.
Well, with every job, there's you have to know what job you're doing, what the job requirements. Yeah, I'm trying to think my vocabulary phrases here. You have to know the requirements of the job. If you are going to be the side man, if you're going to be this guy's bass player, guitar player, there's some things that you just don't do. And thankfully, I had some teachers like that guy Dale Linneman, another guy named James Pullen, that taught me a whole lot of what not to do. And thankfully, I had not only those two guys. There was another guy named Mark Everson, who was one of my mentors and teachers. Those guys had the wisdom to tell me, look, now, if you're going to sit here and we're going to jam in the living room and you're going to play lead guitar, you got two jobs. Play lead guitar and stay out of my way, meaning the singer's way. And I carried that with me. And early on, I learned what not to do. Now, I'm not saying I'm no Mr. Bad, Jerry Reed picker or anything. I'm not. I don't burn up the neck. I don't do anything like that. But I think I have a good handle on how to back up a singer because I stay out of their way and I don't play over their vocals. As a bass player, I don't play too many notes. There's all kind. I could get real detailed, but in other words, whatever instrument you're playing, whatever role you have, know the job requirements of that. Whatever instrument you have in your hands, and make sure that you play with the other musicians and listen to everybody. Because if you don't listen, matter of fact, if you don't listen to the lead singer, then you're not actually participating in the gig you're trying to put on your own show, which is a real easy way to get fired. Matter of fact, me and my friend Tom Batts have always kicked this phrase back and forth. If you're busy, you won't be. So if you're busy on whatever instrument, whether it's drums or whatever, you're not going to get any calls. You're not going to be, your calendar's not going to be busy. So that's being a front man. On the other side of it, I've got this quintet called Palomino Moon, and it's a really interesting group. It's rhythm guitar, bass, twin fiddles, and a steel guitar, no drums. And the cool thing about that one is all of us, although Leslie Sloan and Kevin Carter have had their own solo type things going on. All of us have been side people for somebody else. Leslie goes and plays gigs with Tony Booth. Kevin Carter's played with Gene Watson and Clint Black and all these other people. Harlan's played with Johnny Bush and Tommy Morell. Jody Cameron's played with I don't know how many famous people. Anyway, we all know how to back each other up and play well together. It goes back to kindergarten. If you're back on the sideman subject again, remember in the report card, plays well with others, you can get a needs improvement or a satisfactory or an unsatisfactory. Same thing. So if you're a great sideman, I was telling somebody, a young musician a couple days ago, the best leader is a great follower. So I've kind of made my own little rule book. I'm like, look, man, if so-and-so is going to be a front man, they need to be a side man for somebody for 3 or 4 years first, and see the guts and the workings of the band and how everybody works together. But on the front man subject, there's a couple things that you have to do. You have to take good care of your musicians, get them song lists, charts if you have them for originals, audio files. Big responsibility. I've done a lot of gigs before 20 years ago that were my own gigs, but they were just thrown together things. They weren't prepared very well, and some of them might have been with some haphazard musicians. But yeah, I've done some frontman gigs here in the last 15 years, 10 years, and if you're going to be a frontman, you have to surround yourself. And this guy is a really good example. Jim calls the best musicians he can find for the job, right? Exactly. And it's for the job. There's a certain, let's say, I don't know, drummer. You may not want this drummer on this particular job, but these two other drummers over here, they'd be the prime ones. This man's great at picking out a band. And as a front man, you have to know what musicians to call for which job. Very, very important. You have to be perceptive, and you have to know some music too. You can't just be a little stick man standing up there singing. You can't just do that. So, it's a different mindset. And sometimes, if it requires you not taking any money out of the kitty, give it to the band.
Right.
Because you know what? With that comes, it raises morale and brings dignity.
Sure.
And they will be more apt to answer the phone the next time you call and take the gig or make room for your gig. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's some different mindsets there, you know, and if you strive to be a front man, be a good idea to talk to a bunch of side men. Yeah. That's my advice for any aspiring front men.
Yep.
You know,
I tell you, both of the side man comments were just spot on to me. I think very important. Mm-hmm. And if I could jump in there with one little personal anecdote, my daughter Leslie, who we had on recently, my country band, I gave it the name of Country All Stars, and she's the one. She gave me the name Country Jim, and she named my band Country All Stars.
I didn't know that.
And she said this. She said, "Dad, you need to call your band Country All Stars because they are all stars." Mm-hmm. And then she said, "But I don't see how you get them to play for you as little as you pay."
Well, I've got a final question here.
Sure. Yeah.
So if I'm walking down the road, I run into you somewhere, not literally run into you, but we're on the sidewalk and I see you, and I'm thinking, well, I've seen you before, but I'm saying to myself, who is Howlin Howie? And you say,
he's this guy. He's a musician. He's kind of crazy, but he's fun to hang around, and he'll help you out best he can if you need help. Hopefully someone could say that of me. I love my friends. I love my family.
Yeah.
And I try to, you know, show them that I love them best I can, you know.
Very good.
And make a difference in the lives of others, you know. Yeah. But
yes, you do.
And making some good music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, that's anything else?
No, I've just really loved this.
Good. Yeah, it's been great. We appreciate you being here.
Hey, I'm glad to have been here. I really appreciate you asking me.
You bet. Howlin Howie on our podcast.
Howard Dowdy.
There you go. See y'all next time.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to The Big Show with Andy Gallo and Country Jim.
This has been a Unicap Media presentation.